Hello and welcome to another edition of Play It Again, the series in which well-known people talk about the films they love that perhaps even helped shape their lives. Favourite heroes from favourite movies, nostalgic moments that remain to warm their lives. Our guest this week is the man who in the golden days of radio was the multi-voiced foil to Tony Hancock. He was at least a dozen different characters in Round the Horn and Beyond Our Ken. He's been a star of many television shows and carry-on films. He's a man of the theatre, author, review and cabaret artist. He is, of course, Kenneth Williams.
I do too. I say what a great honor it is for you to have me here.
Kenneth, astonishingly, and I'm sure you would agree with this, astonishingly, you are just old enough to have served during the war in the army.
Yes, I was called up when I was 18, 1944, and I was in Singapore by the time the Japanese surrender was being celebrated. In fact, I was asked to go there and draw up special engrossing documents for the Japanese generals to sign because they thought a typewritten document wasn't good enough for the War Museum. But I got there too late, and eventually a native draftsman was got to do it instead. I was a draftsman, you see, in the engineers originally, and then I was allowed to transfer to CSE, which was the Combined Services Entertainment, the troops equivalent, in fact, to ENSA. And it was in Combined Services Entertainment that I came upon Stanley Baxter and John Schlesinger and Peter Nichols, all of whom have made a name for themselves in some fashion or another since. And I was in a play, actually, at the Victoria Theatre in Singapore. I was playing a detective in Seven Keys to Baldpate, and I had a moustache on to give me age and maturity, you see, and I had to say in this play, I'll search them, and the others had to say, you've searched all of us, why don't you search the girl? And I had to say, yes, if she's got anything on her, I'll get it. And the troops were shouting, yeah, we'll help you, mate, we'll help you, you search her. It got very ribald, you can imagine. And backstage came this boy who'd flown from Burma to join us with his kit bag and everything, and it turned out to be Stanley Baxter. And he said, is this where you do the Combined Services Entertainment? I said, no, this is where we're doing the play. The HQ is at Nee Soon, 15 miles out of Singapore, and you wait for us, and we'll get the Gary back after the show. I'll give you a complimentary ticket for the show. And I was quite grand. He said to me, I thought you were the OC, not an actor at all. But it all did start in Singapore, the entire acting career. Really.
Well, from that time, let's have a look at Carry On Sergeant, which I think is the very first Carry On film, isn't it?
It was the first one ever made on a budget, I think, 47,000.
Really? Mm. Well, worth every penny.
Rest plus graded exercise equals integrated instincts. Who are you?
4277312, Private Sage C, sir.
Now say it backwards. Come on.
312, 737.
If you can't think backwards, how do you expect to think the proper way? Watch this, man, Sergeant. Regimental processes achieve flexibility. Flexibility plus discipline equals communal initiative.
It does, sir? It does, sir.
It does, yes. You.
Yeah.
What? Who are you?
James Bailey, BSc Economics.
Your number.
I'm not proud of it. It was given to me. I earned my degree.
Your rank.
Well, that's a matter of opinion.
Look at this, man.
You've nothing to complain of. Look at the suit they've given me. Look at this, plumped on my head without even the pretense of fitting. As a good soldier, I accepted it without complaint. As a good officer, what do you think?
Well, pride in appearance plus confidence in one's superior equals good start. Fall out. Get yourself a new hat.
Excuse me.
Of course. What?
I know that when you were in Hong Kong, you saw a film there which impressed you greatly.
Yes,
the Oxbow
incident.
Yes.
That was during the tour. You see, we were on tour with various shows. The CSE sent from Singapore, Burma, Hong Kong, the New Territories area, Kowloon, and parts of China. And it was Stanley Baxter, actually, who's been an enormous influence on me in the acting career, really has. He was the one that introduced me to Gordon Craig and all kinds of interesting theatre. And he said, this is a classic. You must see this film. I was always interested only in the frivolous films. And he said, it's a very serious film and about a very serious issue in all of human life, the fundamental idea of justice. And it's the finest performance Fonda's ever given. And it was Henry Fonda. He was a devotee of Henry Fonda. And he taught me a tremendous amount about acting. And he said to me, you must see this film, which is a classic, not only in terms of acting, but in terms of the original kind of script which showed you in the Western fashion the very simple axiomatic thing where justice was seen to be done in a society which seemed to be corrupt. And he said it was a superb example of that.
Yes. Well, we're going to see a scene from that film now with Henry Fonda, and we'll see how much this brings back those days to you.
They don't like to talk about it except with fellas they sleep with.
Afraid they'll find out it's somebody they know?
Maybe.
They lose some more this spring?
Some.
How many?
About 600 head.
They got any leads?
They picked up a small herd trail and signs of shod horses down in the South Draw.
Wouldn't everybody know if there was strange?
Sure. There hasn't been any. Except you two.
That ain't funny.
Now who's touchy?
You're talking about my business. Stick to my pleasures.
No offense, Carter. I just want to let you know where you two stand.
Listen.
Take it easy, Gil. He's had 5 whiskeys and he's sore about Rose Maple.
Keep your mouth shut about Rose, see?
Okay, Gil. I was just joking. You can take a joke, can't you?
Sure, I can take a joke. Some jokes.
Lost any over your way? No more in the winter and the coyotes would account for.
You haven't got any ideas, have you, Farnley?
Except not to have ideas.
Make that clear.
There are a lot of things around here ain't clear.
You still talking about rustling?
And strangers. Looks happy, don't he?
He just needed exercise. Whenever he gets low in spirits or confused in his mind, he doesn't feel right until he's had a fight. It doesn't matter whether he wins or not. He feels fine again afterwards.
It is a marvelous reminder. You're absolutely right. It is a superb reminder because you forget when you watch that kind of thing, because he looks a cowboy as to the manner born. You forget that he's superb theatre. That's all his training, and Fonda's training is superb theatre. And he's a very fine straight actor. And it's only later on in that film that you see where the unjust nature of the society leads him. He's almost hanged. In it, it's a lynching that's going to take place, a kangaroo court. And it's that kind of bravery that's later evinced. And you go from that paradox, which is him taking the law into his own hands with a fight, to the machinery of justice itself being taken in hand by someone else.
It's not a little like 12 Angry Men.
It's very similar. Very similar, where the idea of the majority all going for one thing is held out against by the one man who's got virtue.
Your next choice of film is Lady Caroline Lamb, which of course was directed and written by Robert Bolt.
That's right, and I was with Robert. We worked together on a play he wrote called Gentle Jack, and I was in that with Edith Evans in that. And Edith Evans was, as you know, a woman with tremendous idiosyncratic tastes and manner. And we stayed at one place in a hotel in Brighton, and she said to me, we were going back in the cab after the show. We came down late, you understand. And she said to me, did they give you any notes after the show? Any notes? I said, yes, I was given several notes. Were you? She said, yes. They told me Hardy Amy's has designed very regal costumes. You should look equally regal in them. She said, do you think that's justified? I said, no. I think any criticism of your deportment is tantamount to impertinence. And she said, yeah, oh, yeah, you're a very pleasant young man. And there's no reason why the right girl shouldn't come along. I was ridiculous. I'm 46. Not like that to me. No, it's never too late. And I remember thinking that she obviously regarded that as the reward for good behavior. The right girl coming along. My mother's always on about the same thing. Why don't you find yourself a clean liver? And never a clean kidney. It's always a clean liver.
Without more ado, I think we must go straight into Lady Caroline Lamb.
Right.
Perhaps the honourable gentleman will tell us now, what is the business of this house?
Pheasant poaching. It is a nuisance, Mr. Speaker, and one wants it stopped. But between poaching a pheasant and hanging a man, there is a sort of disproportion which is invincibly repugnant to a rustic jury, many of whom are probably poachers. Knowing that the man, if they convict him, will hang, they won't convict.
That's very true.
So the man goes free and does it again. The 5-year sentence proposed by the amendment would get a conviction and would stop him doing it. At least for 5 years. And that, Mr. Speaker, is the business of this House.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Very, very fascinating. And you see, it goes actually with what I was saying before about Robert Bolt, because he said then the only way to carry your original vision through to its fruition was to do it yourself. And that's exactly what he did there. Robert Bolt directed Lady Caroline Lamb, and as you can see, did it very beautifully. That's an example, incidentally, of the acid drop, because you saw there the Prime Minister obviously saying, what is the business of this house, to someone who he thought hasn't got quite the right kind of reply. And in fact, the man had got the right kind of reply. And in that book of mine, you've got there a very fine book, incidentally.
Isn't it? Yes.
Yeah, I hope you'll notice there. It's a very fine book with a lovely photograph of your good self on it. And I've recounted in that some very funny accounts of the things that did go on in Parliament that could be rightly called the acid retort, or in this I've called it the acid drop, because you do drop someone right in the place they should be. And it was when Sheridan rose in the House and said, and it's a marvellous trap to pull anyone into, where shall we find a more foolish knave, or a more foolish fool than this? Where shall we find him? And the unfortunate MP got up and said, here. And then realised how far he was in it, you see. That's what I love about the acid drop. They do put your interloper or your impudent interloper in his place. It's like the one about the Claire Booth Luce opening of the door, you know, when she said to Dorothy Parker, who was going to pass through it, age before beauty. And Dorothy Parker said, yes, and pearls before swine. I recounted that.
It's a very interesting collection of acid drops. How long did it take you to collect?
It took me about 5 months, but I was prepared because don't forget I've been on quote unquote loads of times, and the producer always used to say before we started the program, don't forget to bring along loads of quotes. Bring your favorite quotes. Bring one to do with food, one to do with politics, one to do with showbiz. So you always had to be well prepared. And very often he'd say, well, yes, I like them, but it's not broadcastable, so I'll take 1, 2, or 3, and not 4 or 5. So I had plenty of material ready. The historical stuff I culled largely from biography. I'm an avid reader of history and biography. I like the non-fiction rather than fiction. That's what I'm always mad about.
Well, don't go away. Let's talk after the break, and we'll see you back here in just a few moments. No, I rather thought that section about Stanley Baxter worked very well indeed, because it actually came where I wasn't expecting it, but it was rather nice. It worked out very well.
Sorry, Bernard, could you repeat that, please?
And welcome back. Kenneth, I know that your next choice is Tunes of Glory with Alec Guinness and John Mills.
Oh, I loved that film because it had in it so many of my favourites. I mean, Alec Guinness I adored in it, and so did I love Duncan McRae's Pipe Major, which was a superb portrayal. And, of course, my old chum, Gordon Jackson, he was marvellous in it. And I loved it because, you see, I'd worked with Alec Guinness in a play called Hotel Paradiso. And I'd had a marvellous role, Maxime. I had come in through this window and say, I saw you at the brothel and I'm going to blackmail you. I want 500 francs. And had this long scene with him where he had to placate me. And on the night, I came through this window and rushed in saying all this stuff. And he got in front of me and shoved me. And eventually I was behind a potted palm. You couldn't see me at all. And I thought, well, what's going on here? You know, it's funny, isn't it? So when we came off, I said to him, you know, you shoved me right behind that tree. Nobody could see what I was doing. And he said, no, I should look down if I were you. And I did, and found that my fly was undone. And I said, oh, I had no idea, because I always undid the trousers in the dressing room and just sort of let it all hang out, you know, as Barbara Windsor would say. And he said to me, you must learn, you're a very young actor, you must learn in the course of your career to do two things before you go on stage. Blow your nose and check your fly. Of course, after that, I always did. So that's why this film means quite a lot to me.
Yes, I think we should have a look now at an absolutely immaculate Alec Guinness.
Yes, this is the marvellous scene with the corporal,
Yes.
isn't it?
It's not every lass who gets a corporal piper. No, it's not. Is she bonny, Corporal?
I think so, sir.
I think so, he says. Tell me, Corporal, are your intentions strictly honourable?
Yes, indeed, sir.
Then you're a bloody fool, Corporal, that's what you are. You leave honourable intentions to fathers like me.
It's latish, old chum.
Are you failing, you miserable man? Are the lights going out all over, Charlie?
Man, all over barracks. It's after 3, old boy.
Is that so? Oh, boy. Corporal, you see before you the body of a major. And the ghost of a colonel. They instruct you to dismiss.
To some of us, sir, you will always be the colonel.
Corporal Fraser, the penalty for mutiny is death. Dismissed.
He is marvellous in that. You mentioned a moment ago Barbara Windsor, which of course leads us inevitably to the Carry On films.
Yes, doesn't it just?
Now, there have been 30 of them. You've
Yes,
been in
I've
28.
been in 28, yes.
And they have consistently, over the years, been knocked by the critics. What's your own view of
Oh, I
them?
think they can take it. They can be knocked. I mean, religion's knocked, jury's knocked, the Irish are knocked. Everything gets knocked. And if it's got enough strength in itself, it can stand up to it. So can they. The carry-ons are in the mainstream of a very vulgar streak in English humour, which has always been there since Chaucer, right through Shakespeare. It's in the Restoration authors. And it is in the sort of fabulous postcard seaside joke of the fat lady having the pea. All those sort of jokes are in the carry-ons, and they do sustain that kind of tradition, and they're in a very healthy tradition, and I think they're honest vulgarity. They're not snide vulgarity. It's never very subtle what they're doing. It's all very obvious. I mean, bums are obvious, tits are obvious, everything is obvious, and it's very schoolboy in that sense. And I know what the quality is in them that did so appeal. It was always that. What I would call healthy vulgarity, yes.
I have to ask you, though, you were in 28 out of 30. What happened to the other two?
Well, one I said I wanted more money because they paid to start with Satan, you know. And they said, oh, no, we're not paying you any more. And they got somebody else in my stead. They got Frankie Howard, in fact, who did very well in them. And then the next time I was on tour in the play, and they said, well, we could fly you from your theatrical engagement to the location for filming. I thought, oh, no, dear, I'll be worn out. My legs are not what they were. They never were up to much, but they're not that good now. So I didn't bother with that either. I rather, steered clear of it. But the ones I did do, I always found very enjoyable, simply because it was a team, and everybody knew, whether it was Hattie Jakes, whether it was Barbara, whether it was Sid James, we all knew, roughly speaking, what each other's reaction should be. We hardly had to rehearse. And when we had a run-through with the technicians there on the set who were plasterers, carpenters, electricians, all the kind of people, in fact, who were going to be in cinemas later on, if we got a few laughs from them, we knew we were all right.
Yeah. Your last choice of film is Love, Pain and the Whole Damn Thing.
Oh, this is a special place in my affections, yes, because you see, I was with Maggie first in the review by Bernard Gascoigne called Share My Letters, and I was with her again in that wonderful play by Peter Schaffer, The Public Ear and Private Eye. And I did a TV with her, and I always remember saying to her, they say you're marvellously relaxed on TV and on the screen. She said, no, I'm not really. My teeth have had so many fillings. I'm so full of lead, my head keeps falling forward. I remember thinking how funny that was about her. And she was screamingly funny about doing Private Lives in New York, because she said the manager came backstage and said, I do apologize for the theatre. It was to be demolished. but they've kept it open. That's why your play is in here, but it should have been pulled down, you see. And she said to me, yeah, give me a pickaxe, I'll give you a hand. Which I thought, again, was terribly funny. And what I love about her work is that she's both sides of that coin. On the one side, you've got tragedy. On the other side, you've got enormous laughter. And she can bring those two together. Magnificent.
I think very briefly we ought to set up the clip we're going to see. Could you?
Yes, it's about a lady who is suffering very, very badly from muscular dystrophy. And she knows she is going to die. And every now and again, the inability to actually frame words comes upon her, and she almost can't talk at all. And the way she conveyed this, with humour at the beginning, and in the end, a total inability to speak, was brilliant in this particular film. Love, pain, and the whole damn thing.
I'm sorry. I didn't hear. What did you find? Oh, your teeth. No, I would never have thought of looking in there. Could you get Auntie Vi for... She's not? Oh, well, could you get Auntie Gladys for me? Ask her to leave, Mr. Phillips. Now, Mr. Phillips can sit up beautifully on his own in the bath. No, not as well as you can, but he can sit up. Well, yes, will you go up and hold on to him and ask Auntie Gladys to come down, please? Thank you. Hello? Oh, hello, Captain Bill. Yes, he told me he found them. Yes, in the piano. Very, very careless. No, Captain Bill, you are not going to die, I promise you. I can't call you every day and promise you. I'm in Spain, you see. Spain. Yes, I know you have a pain. We all have a little pain now and then. I bought you a lovely bottle of brandy. Yes, is Auntie Gladys there?
Hilarious in that moment.
Actually, marvellous actress.
She's stunning.
I saw you a long time ago playing the Dauphin in
St. Joan. Yes, Georges Bellechaud. Yes, I was in there, and that in fact led me into Hancock's Other. I know that sounds weird, but from St. Joan, playing the Dauphin, I was seen by Dennis May Wilson, who'd already discovered Hancock from the Variety Bandbox series, and had found Galton and Simpson, who were both in a clinic, both suffering from some illness, and they both started writing scripts as therapy to fill in the time.
Yes.
And he'd accepted a couple of scripts from them and said it would make a perfect vehicle for Hancock. And he came to see this show, and he asked me to be the character man in it. And I said, what makes you think I'm right for radio? And he said, because you began as a young man in the play, and then when you went into the very old voice at the end, you looked marvelous. He said, and that's the quality I want on the air. That very old voice, you see. And so I was cast immediately as Hancock's character man.
And those were, of course, the golden days of radio. I'm going to leave you there embalmed, as it
Yes,
were.
halcyon days.
Kenneth Williams, thank you very much indeed.
Oh, it's been delightful, Tony.